Absolute dreamland for Australia. 2-0 up and welcome to Jetlag City. We have to apologise straight away here, or I have to apologise because this is a little bit later than what we originally anticipated. Pez and I are both back in Melbourne now. This is the morning of the third Test match here in Headingley. Tell you what, I sound good through the headphones.
Your voice always sounds good to me, brother. A little bit of a crackle in it, and I think embrace it.
Yeah, I'll embrace it.
Go for it.
Unfortunately, there was a tech issue. We recorded on Monday morning. I was in London. Pezza was in Melbourne. Tech issue, fuck up. And then we just lost some audio. So we thought we'd wait and do it properly on Thursday.
What a show that was, though.
And one of the all-time great shows. Yeah. People won't even know. Award-winning. That would have been award-winning. Award-winning
for 95% of it. The other 5% of it libelous. Yeah. I would have thought.
Yeah.
At least at my end.
This episode, though, is brought to you by Budgy Smuggler, budgysmuggler.com.au. Use the code goodareas, all one word, goodareas, for free shipping. Hats, shirts, swimwear, stubby holders.
He goes, ladies and gentlemen, is in bits. This is one of the all-time efforts. He's less than 24 hours off the flight, high fever, but we knew we needed to deliver. I don't think we've ever had more messages from people going, where the fuck is the podcast? And like a lot's been said about Lords. We know we're late, and it is possibly the most grade cricket international incident to have ever happened. Like you couldn't even say since Bodyline, because in threes you can't get the ball up that high
No.
We are painfully aware. We know that a lot of people listen to this after the third test has started. It's not ideal, but he goes has fucking dragged himself in here to at least get some words out. Maybe the whole thing is what kind
of words they'll be, but
no, exactly. But we had to give something. Something had to come. So how do you want to do it? He goes, do you want to go through Lords, like as a match, and go through the good things that happened, or do you want to get straight into the international incident?
What I want to say is first that we've just come back from the UK, obviously, and a lot of that was down to our dear patrons.
Yes.
Patreon.com/Grade Cricketer. You can sign up for the audio after every day's play from Headingley, and then of course Old Trafford, and then the Oval, plenty to come, and then of course #AskTGC Fridays every single Friday.
And we're recording this afternoon as well, which I suspect is going to go even harder than what we said here.
That's right. So if you want to hear what we really think. Okay, well, everyone knows what happened in the game. Australia won by, let's call it 300. So let's talk about the BAIRSTOW dismissal, the fallout of such. Mate, have you heard some fucking carry on? Mate. Have you ever heard as much carry on?
Never.
As this?
It's been weapons grade stuff. So much said. What I'm relishing right now is a rare scenario where in some cricket conflict, Australians are starting to sound calm and sane.
Are we the good guys?
I'm very reluctant to say, but we have just borne witness to like a national tantrum. Yeah. Something that has broken beyond the boundaries of cricket into a deeper national psyche dysfunction, which isn't to say we don't have our own here in Australia. We have many, and those dysfunctions actually propel this business greatly. But this has been, it's been bemusing, bizarre, comical, entertaining,
very
depressing. I think a lot of caveats need to be said before we assume the grade cricket prism on this. Got some friends in the UK.
Yeah.
Had some wonderful live shows there, supported by mainly people from England. A lot of sensible people in England, including, in this instance, like 6 ex-captains who are like, fine, play on.
Let's see what the issue is.
That aside.
So can I?
Where do you want to start?
So with the incident itself. So when we did
Smith played well, Stokes played well. Good stuff.
When we did the daily for day 5, afterwards, I was saying like having only seen the incident once, the stuff.
You're on a train to Surrey.
That's right. And I thought like, it doesn't really sit that well with me. Like when but then having seen like it's numerous times now, and then seeing that there was no delay in Carey like releasing the ball, that BAIRSTOW had a sequence of doing it over and over again. It was a deliberate tactic that they done obviously, and then once obviously the hypocrisy of the coach, the wicketkeeper in question.
No, they're different. They're all different situations.
Yeah.
Unless
because one of them was on a Tuesday, this was on a Sunday.
Yeah, unless you replicate it perfectly. They're actually different situations. I mean,
Exactly.
there are some false equivalences there with the actual mechanics of it.
Sure.
But when you pile them up, you're seeing something similarly themed.
Unfortunately, that card is then withdrawn. You can't then say like, well, we wouldn't do that. Unfortunately.
No, you can.
Quite easily,
with some of those
apparently.
people. Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So I sort of like I've changed my opinion of it over the last few days. In that it's just fucking out. It's just play on. Also, everyone's just said like, yeah, it's out. I mean, Ben Stokes in the presser afterwards says like, okay, first of all, it's out. That's the end of the conversation. Then it's out.
Yeah, I've enjoyed how many people have said it's technically out, and it's like out and technically out is exactly the same thing. Yeah, okay. On to the incident, because there's like there's a legal like prosecution of it, which I think is quite boring, and that everybody has accepted. According to the laws which the MCC wrote, and then many in the long room protested the execution of, like. Everyone agrees that that's out.
Yeah.
The social prism is the best of it. Like, so the way I see it is like Johnny wanted to decide when the ball was dead.
Yeah.
Right? When you're playing cricket and you observe a player, let's say a batter, taking matters into their own hands, that's red rag to a ball.
Red rag to a ball.
Oh, no, I scraped the crease, so I'll decide when it's over. Well, let's have a crack. Let's see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll see if that's right. That is just how the game is played.
Yes.
And, there's been this further argument. I saw that Broad has pushed this argument. Joe Root has pushed this argument. And let's be fair. Like, I've spoken to people who are not revealing themselves, of repute in Australia, who also are uncomfortable and believe that Cummins should have recalled BAIRSTOW.
Sure.
It's not just drawn along tribal or national lines.
Yeah, right.
They push this argument that BAIRSTOW wasn't seeking an advantage. That's the key point, from the ethical standpoint. I mean, like I disagree. He may not have been seeking an advantage materially in the form of scoring a run, but he was seeking the advantage of being a law unto himself. Right. There is a certain psychological advantage to that cricketers observe on the field. If somebody's behaving as though they're above the rules of the game, there is a particular advantage and message within that is being sent. It's not manifesting in adding a run to the score, but it is sending a message to the opposition, or at least revealing an attitude within itself. It feels like this might be a long bow, but I reckon cricketers who've played know when players are doing that. So he wanted the advantage of being a law unto himself, and that's apt, I think, because Bazball itself has been keen to present alternative facts, saying losses are wins, series are void, and I think that the way BAIRSTOW was behaving is in keeping with that. We can do what we want when it suits us. And the Aussies, grizzled cricketers as they are, like all Test cricketers are like, well, let's just have a crack and see what happens. Yeah. Executed perfectly. And I think one thing we're learning thematically throughout this series so far, which isn't over, and England will come hard, is that cricket is a great leveller. What's been really strange is England's seeming inability to properly accept what's happened. Instead, the players are inciting crowds, fanning the flames of discontent and the idea that the Australians are cheats. something very strange is going on.
Yeah, I think this is definitely part of the the cultish element of baseball. It's like now they have been aggrieved, you know, like that something has gone against them. It's like then they whip the crowd up into a frenzy, because I think baseball essentially they need the chaos of external elements like the crowd, for instance. I think a lot of people said during the Lord's Test match that Lords isn't a great ground for what the England team are trying to do. Now, fundamentally, like, they need this because they're playing against a better team than them. Like Australia, over, through 1 to 11, they just have slightly better players, I think. They have a better wicketkeeper. They have slightly better bowlers. The batters are, like, Duckett had a very good game. Quaj has been good. Smith and Rood are obviously good players. Head and Stokes, the batters match up broadly similar. But Australia's just a slightly better team. But what they need is fucking vibes and energy and chaos, perhaps from the crowd. I think, like, with the advantage thing, there is absolutely zero doubt in my mind that when Carey underarms a ball, if Bairstow goes back in his crease, that ball hits the stumps and goes to square leg, they're running.
Of course.
Absolutely zero doubt.
By the way, as they should.
As they should.
As they fucking should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very simple, chalk.
Yeah, it's a thing you'll never be at.
Yeah. But you can't prove that because it didn't happen.
Oh, of course not. I liked Ponting's comments in response to Stokes saying...
Well, he's out now.
He made 150. Sorry. Ponting's comments in response to Stokes saying he would have withdrawn the appeals. Like, well, it's easy to say after 3 hours. You don't know what you would have done, in that particular moment. Yeah, I mean, there's some shit going on here that's, like, going way beyond... a dispute over both the laws and the codified preamble of the spirit of cricket going on here. I mean, even the spirit of cricket argument, I think Gideon just absolutely fucking destroyed it. He was going, well, if you read the spirit of cricket, the two key planks of it are play the game hard and respect the umpire's decision. I mean, there's only one side that I can see that he's not doing that. It's like... It's a tantrum. It's a tantrum. It's hysteria.
Yeah.
You're looking at, like, you're getting into, like, national psyche areas, which is probably, you should always be careful to comment on that with other countries. But
right.
With Australia, like, when you're involved in it, you're like, this is some colonial leash stuff going on here.
Yeah.
This is some reckoning in a country going through some tough times. Where you're just seeing some rank ugliness, and when you're 2-0 up, you just sort of have a look from the side and go.
Well, the Prime Minister's off. I mean, the big thing for me, which changed my opinion when Piers Morgan said it was no good. I thought, well, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. On the one hand, you got you got Atherton, Butcher, Hussain, Alex Stewart, Gower, Strauss, saying that Carey and Cummins were correct. On the other hand, you got, Piers and Boycott. I don't know. Fuck, man. It was, it's crazy. And then you see these efforts to conflate it with sandpaper and the underarm, and it's like, because they've just said, like, I remember when I was in the UK in 2018 when sandpaper happened. Like, I was working at like a private media company and getting rolled out on the BBC, as a second grader, like as an Aussie human pinata going, what do you think about you guys cheating? It's like this is a game between Australia and South Africa that had happened with sandpaper, and the Brits were just like fucking foaming at the mouth about the convict cheats fucking up again. They just
dumb old Aussies.
Yeah, that's right. They just love and we
swear a lot in their little podcasts over there.
Yeah, we can feel good about ourselves. Yeah. And I think there's been this effort this time. They've seen this like, oh, this is another sandpaper absolute result, and instead, like, Australians have gone, like, with the underarm, disgrace, sandpaper, disgrace. But this time we're like, nah, all good. Well, and not only that, the Indians are on our side as well. Like Kohli's coming out. You got Asher on your side, okay? Yeah. But like, I just get the sense a lot of like Indians are like, this is a tantrum. Like what? Why are you guys still talking about this? I have to say, like, I went on TalkSport the other day. First time round, the producer was kind. He said, "Yeah, we want to talk about spirit of cricket." Okay. Yeah. 48 hours later, got another text going, "Oh, it's I won't say his name. From TalkSport. Can you jump on again?" And I said, "Is this to talk about the spirit of cricket still?" And he said, "Yes, please." Who's it with? Alan Brazil and Gabby Ogbonlahor? I'm like, oh, fucking roll me out.
Fucking yes, I am in.
I'm in.
I'm in, baby.
It's there's There's some deeper stuff going on.
I don't think anything has been more, why is this happening to me, since, Australia were knocked off at the Gabba by India. Like, it's just the whole thing is like, why is this happening to me, Daddy?
And, like the double standards are just remarkable.
It's sick. I found, Stuart Broad has had one of the all-time great series because he said that that Zach Crawley's 4 in the first Test match was his favourite Ashes moment ever. And then he's gone all the way to the other end where he said to Alex Carey on the field, that's the worst thing I've ever seen in the cricket field. Now, Stuart Broad was
That's great cricket stuff. That's good.
Well, it is good. He was also played in the game where 2 guys went to jail. But he hit 169 that day.
Man,
so
he's brilliant.
He's brilliant. He knows what he's doing.
He's absolutely brilliant. Sandpaper suit stuff and whatever.
He is very good. Very good stuff.
If you don't get it, it's
well, I've also just really enjoyed that. I was like 1.5 tests ago when Australia, after Robinson was sledging Khawaja. Why Khawaja? And it was it was just like whinging Aussies, and then like one thing happens to the fucking banter kings, and it's just like absolute meltdown.
Yeah,
like there has to be an element here. Now I don't know these English cricketers. I know their names. I'm sure fundamentally they're really good people,
Sure,
and
you never hate anyone whose story you know.
And you know what? When they're on the field, and that's how we see them, these athletes. We see them when they're performing on the field, white line fever, all of it. Wouldn't mind that myself, actually.
I had plenty. Manchester.
And maybe they'll change after the crease. And I'm sure like someone like a Stuart Broad, for instance, will one day come on the show, and I bet it's gonna be a great chat. But it's just like it's getting into like quite embarrassing areas where like Pat Cummins
it's already there.
It is embarrassing, because Pat Cummins in the presser. When he was asked like, are you guys going to underarm bowl now? And he's just saying like, well, see how flat the decks are. I mean, that's fucking 5-0 Australia right there. He's dominating them.
Yeah. Or Agnew going like, Ben Stokes has just said he'd withdraw the appeal. Okay.
Fuck, that's our fault.
Like it's not to like wank over the Aussies. It's more like,
the
Aussies we shouldn't be winning banter wars. You know what I mean? Like, especially against the English. Good TV shows. There's some good wit knocking around. Yeah. We shouldn't be coming out on top. Really.
Nah.
Yeah. The double standards are like remarkable. The world's full of double standards. We all have double standards.
Sure.
We're all coats. Mm-hmm. We're all the same. We're all one consciousness. Sharing life subjectively, but. Like, I had the fortune of going into Westminster Abbey the other day.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded of the book of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 3 to 5.
3 to 5, yeah.
Don't judge a man with a splinter in his eye if you have a log in yours. It's as simple as that. Like, I don't, if you want to say that the Carey dismissal is a bit how you're going, it's on a spectrum of how you're going, I think that's completely reasonable.
Sure.
It's just the fucking pompous judgment of it from guys who are some of the biggest proponents of sharp practice in cricket that we've seen, and they're allowed to be. Just the fuck, can you see your feet from that high horse? You fucking knob. I mean, shut the fuck up. It's like that's the embarrassing part. I don't know if that's a cultural difference or something, but like the blindness to how hypocritical that sounds. I know it's the national sport of that country. Again, we have our own problems. Deluxe problems. In Australia, but that's the crow's feet. That's when I'm in the fucking crow's pen, and I've got feet all over my eyes. Can't get out. Just crows fucking all over me. Like, what do you like? If you're gonna judge people, make sure you got a clean fucking shirt.
Yeah,
it's not there. But they don't seem to they don't seem to give a fuck. Like that's the weird evangelism of baseball. It's like their argument seems to be, oh, look, what we did in the past before we found the light of baseball, before we joined the cult, that's irrelevant. Now that we're in this beautiful new transcendent movement, we know what the truth of the world is, and that was not right. It's like, okay, it's 2-0. Like, stop bowling no balls, you dumb cunts. You know what I mean? Well,
get a keeper that can catch.
It's this pompous moralizing that actually I think is a mask for, when you look at it properly, like deep self-obsession, disrespect for the opposition. At no point have they credited Australia with being ahead and playing slightly better cricket.
Yep.
You know, that is against the spirit of cricket for me. Like that is what's, if you're going to argue what's immoral, what's immoral. It's fucking bizarre.
We're sort of getting into it now, I suppose, but like, I mean, a lot of people have said that England should have won the first test, right? And it's like,
argument for that.
And it's like, they would have done if they were a better team. If they were a better team, they would have won that game. They're not. The second test match, I thought they were dreadful, to be honest. I mean, like
all game.
We've said this before. They sent Australia in on a green deck, overcast conditions, lights were on. Australia makes 416. Then on day 2, sun's out, great day for batting. They're 188 for 1.
Yes,
all out 320 something, with some absolutely like English press describe it as cowardly batting. And then Australia obviously lose a bowler. They also have, then Ben Stokes puts on one of the all-time great fourth innings. And they
if
still,
not the, I mean, it was fucking colossal.
It might have been better than Headingley.
Yeah.
And they still,
I got a story from that, by the way.
They're still 50 short. Like, I mean, it's just, the point being is just like they were crap in the second test match.
It's really strange, isn't it? Because like looking at the Bazball tactics and strategy and the way that it manifests itself, that could be a positive for England, those two things. You could say they were dreadful in this second match. They were wasteful in the first match, and yet they run Australia very close. Australia had several good performances and are playing this kind of tight, mature, clinical brand of cricket. And yet England, who are kind of like woefully wasteful, are still running them close. So logically you think, if England can manage its waste better, which is usually a controllable thing, you know, keep your foot behind the line, you know, be a bit more judicious with when you're going hard at the bowlers, then that should be enough to propel them way ahead. Except that the entire philosophy and approach of Bazball kind of builds waste into it. Like that is literally the attitude that you have to take. It's not just on the field. I mean, we don't practice. We play golf. You know, we hit sixes at training. We're obviously not monitoring no balls. Like that's kind of built in. So it's hard to see how they manage the waste, because waste is actually a corollary. It's a cost of business of the way they play cricket. So as soon as they try and manage the waste and kind of become more precise and meticulous, they might lose whatever that extra kind of spark or electricity is to Bazball. On the other hand, McCullum might have them in there and go like, you know, just take it easy a bit. You know? Like, and they have the chance to do that, because when their cricket is on, it's scintillating, and I don't think anyone can go with them. I don't see 2-0 as like unassailable for Australia. I really don't. It'll be really interesting to see what happens at Headingley, and whether, you know, the inciting of the you know, the hostile Northern English crowd. Who would have thought that the Yorkies had been lockstep with fucking the MCC tops? You know what I mean? But there we go. Like, the hostile Headingley crowd is that is being incited by Joe Root, you know, while simultaneously he says we need to move on from this. Is going to have a kind of galvanising effect on the England team, as they hope, or whether this Bazball thing is a castle built on sand. I mean, it's sloppy cricket a lot of the time. You feel like when they're doing what they're doing and they're just boshing us around, you're like, yeah, but you're only ever like, it's the grade cricket, like putting it in grade terms, it's literally one mistake here, boys.
Yeah. You're always in the game.
Yeah. It's a strange thing. I mean, you know, it's just in the MCC member stuff. Like, this is reported by Lawler, but like, they're having a go after the game at the 11-year-old son of a Cricket Australia staff member.
Yeah.
Heckling Steve Smith's mum, you know, and then when the boys are walking through, like, there's the abuse, but they're like jostling them and trying to trip guys over.
Yeah. And also just hissing.
Yeah.
Like,
is hissing?
It wasn't just booing, it was hissing. Hiss. What the fuck is that?
Yeah,
that for me is the worst of this whole thing.
Yeah.
A grown man in nice pleated red chinos.
I remember in year 6.
I'm a slippery little snake.
I'm a snake. Oh, we talked about that, didn't we? Yeah, that could be what they were doing.
A little slippery snake.
There could be an entire misunderstanding. We got just a couple of guys impersonating Christopher Walken in Jungle Book. No, you try to report into the MCC CEO, like brought into the office. No, I was being walking. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I don't know what else to like. What else where else there is to go? Our mate Dan Norcross said if BAIRSTOW did that to Steve Smith, what Carey did, he'd probably get a knighthood.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
You just know that that's right.
Yes,
don't you?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So when Cummins says this is just blown out of proportion and a non-event, I mean he's right. This is just some bizarre sociological phenomenon that we're all just watching from afar, going, "Wow, you've made us look normal." That is not easy.
Yeah, that's well done.
Yeah, that's
a great achievement so far.
Well done.
I thought it was obviously a great week for the MCC members there, given that the ICEC report came out the day before the test match, and then they started booing and hissing. But I thought it was actually really funny, like looking at the Australians walking up the stairs, like Marnus is like clapping them, then Renshaw like points at one of them.
Yeah.
Like he's like laughing. Like they must be in the dressing room being like, fuck's going on? Like what's going on?
Yeah, I really I really get the sense that the team is, especially with a lot of 30 plus players, are quite mature and like inured to this kind of stuff, especially from England. Like it's just there's this presumption, I think, with a lot of the English judgment of Australian behaviour that Australians, as the colonial subjects, seek the approval of their masters.
Yes.
And I think that's where it falls down. I feel like for a very, very long time, the last people that we want approval from is the English.
Yeah.
We look at the English moral judgment as like with bemusement, and I do think the players just regard the stuff as like pantomime bullshit. And really, like, if we want to zoom out from the tribalism of it, you know, and us, you know, like gleefully wading through things that are wrong with England, because normally what we're talking about is what's wrong with us.
Yeah.
Is that, like, I think a lot of the players quite like England. I like England.
Yeah.
You know, there are actually many more ties that bind us.
Sure.
And that we're just, you know, like, I have a 5-year-old and a near 3-year-old, and like when they have a tantrum, you just can't, you know, any parent knows, like, you can't, it's not a teachable moment when they're having a tantrum. You know, you just got to step back a bit and go, like, you just got to ride it out. And then when they come up for air, it's like, what was happening there, you know? So I get the impression the players aren't particularly rattled by it, but you never know.
It is interesting that, I suspect like Stark's going to get hammered. Carey, obviously, Cummins.
Oh, man, it'll be from ball one, all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also like, you know those English crowds are like, oh, mate, wait till you come to the fucking Headland Fortress. I think Aussies are like, again, it's just crow's feet. You know, like, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't think any Australian cricketer regards England as like intimidating.
It's a bit intimidating, though.
Yeah.
No, I don't think
He's
so.
like, well, you're English. You know, like they're, I mean, as we've seen from the reaction, they're like, but there are exceptions, but like Stokes, you know, but like by and large, there's an inherent softness being revealed with all of it. The Aussies are like, the less you talk, the more you reveal like they reveal themselves.
Yeah.
Boo, convict.
Okay, do you want to talk about some other stuff in the game?
Well, I guess so. It was a really special game. I got to go with my dad for 2 days.
Yeah.
You know, got to meet heaps of people. It's obviously a special place. Lords, Stokes' 155 is one of the greatest things I've seen. I watched it between my fingers for the majority.
Right.
I just cannot think of a player who's so attuned to like cometh the man. You know, like his problem was that he had too much to do. Like I think exhaustion got the better of him. If he only needed the 130, like Headingley, he would have done it.
I think that when he got out, they needed 75 or 80 to win or something like that. So he made 155. I mean, at that point, he would have needed to score 200 red.
Yeah, which is like I was
and it was
resigned.
kind of on.
I was resigned.
Were you really?
I genuinely was. I was like, the as you said in the video afterwards, it's like, well, I've never seen him get out before.
Yeah, right.
Not when he's in that mode.
Yeah.
Beast mode stuff.
Yeah. I think it was just fatigue. He was tired of hitting sixes.
Yeah.
It was also weird because like not many sixes had happened in the game despite the short pitch strategy. And then he just hit like 8 of them.
Oh, that's the thing to talk about. I mean, I think our absolute adoration for Stokes as a cricketer is established.
Sure.
I just can't. I can't say anything higher.
Yeah.
Really, for him as a cricketer, I think he's absolute god. But I do think sitting underneath a lot of this, the social discussion is like, what the fuck's going to happen with this short pitch bowling gear? Because I was on a plane home on when there was that like 98% short ball delivery day,
302 balls or something. Yeah.
And like I remember watching day 2 when they knocked Rood over bowling short, and they had that like leg theory field, and that England did the same thing, even more so and the slower short pitch bowling is actually better on a slower pitch. It is pretty grim to watch after a while, and like it's funny how like the entertaining baseball promise may devolve into like one of the most turgid contests, because it seems that short pitch bowling is a really, really, really effective way of controlling run rates and getting wickets. You're essentially saying, I'm going to put everybody on the boundary. So you're either going to have to clear it or risk getting out. There's nothing else you can do. There's nothing in front of the wicket. I mean, there's a huge impetus now, or like importance on umpires policing this shit, because I think like there's just way too much incentive to bowl like that, unless the decks are offering more and you can have some slips or something, like if it's a bit green and you can pitch the odd one up, then that's good. But really, like if not, why as a team, if you're Australia with England playing the way they're playing, why wouldn't you do that again? It's the antidote. And then for England, same shit.
Well, it is odd to me because these tactics seem to nullify their greatest weapon and make their greatest cricketer of all time, Jimmy Anderson. Like he's
that's a sleeping story, and he's not going to play at Headingley.
Right. Okay. So I mean, he'll obviously bowl from his own ends at Old Trafford, and then perhaps play the Oval the week after that. But it is odd that anytime Australia in the last 22 years have gone to England, they just get swung out and nicked out.
Yeah.
Are England's batters vulnerable to that as well if they make the decks?
They've robbed Peter to pay Paul. Yeah. Like the batting is the symbol of baseball, so they've ordered in decks to permit that kind of play. And by the same token, what they've done is they've strengthened Australia's biggest weakness in England.
Yeah,
like you order in a flat deck. Maybe it's slower than you want it to be. I'm still unconvinced that it wasn't by design. Yeah. But like. They've just played Australia's batters into it. Australia's problem in England has always been putting runs on the board. Bowling's always been good. We're pretty disciplined, know how to control the run rate, can move it around a bit, always have a good attack, pretty similar attacks, but England know how to kind of, with wile and guile, extract a few more runs from it, and also stop those collapses that Australia always seems to have in England, where the momentum fully swings. Broad and Anderson get going and you're fucked, But with these decks, they've now Warner's into the series. Kawaj is fucking, the best opener in the world. Marnus is out of form and he still managed 30 and 47. Smith is Bradman again. Head smashed them every time he comes out to bat, at least in one innings. Going to come to Headingley. There's some suggestion Cam Green mightn't play. Carey's looked okay. The batters are in. Yeah. So it's like, fuck, we're scoring runs now. Now it's just a shootout between the bowlers and probably backing us, particularly with these short ball tactics as well, which seems to nullify baseball. So I reckon there's a huge there's huge pressure on the umpires to police this, because I think that unless they do, it could get really boring. They do have laws at their disposal around intimidatory bowling and being a little bit tighter on what's a wide and what's a no ball and what's over the top of the shoulder.
Right.
Because if you're the captain, you're obligated to use everything at your disposal to try and take the wickets. I mean, look what England did to us.
Well, that's the spirit of cricket for me, but yeah.
Yeah, well, if England wins.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Australia was dominating, weren't they? And then they just lost 8 for 120. England just went short. England just went chin.
Yep.
It turns out that all of the prophecies of the old guard about baseball to simply bump the cunts was correct.
The fact that England went with 4 seamers and Stokes. Did Stokes bowl? Yeah, Stokes.
He did. He had 12 over.
I think that if Lyon plays in the fourth innings there, I think England don't even get close. I think that wicket was taking a bit of turn. Now, obviously, him being out of the series is really significant because he's been fantastic for Australia the last couple of years, especially in
well, he hasn't been better.
Exactly. So it's a huge. Must be really upsetting for him as well because he'd have to go home as well, so he can't even be in the group.
Well, he's gutted, isn't he? I mean, I actually had a story. Like a mate of mine was at Lords on day 5, and I don't know. Well, he was at the back getting a beer, and he saw Nathan Lyon. I don't know why Nathan Lyon's walking on his crutches, but my mate said, "Oh, what do you think?" And Lyon's like, "I can't watch. I've seen this movie before. I actually can't watch it."
Oh, fucking hell. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, anyway, yeah.
Well, obviously,
great story, wasn't it?
Murphy will come in.
Mad dog.
Murphy will come in, and we like to look at that. Do you want to talk about Smith's 100? Smith 110 first innings. It's kind of similar to Stokes, isn't it?
It was there. It felt a privilege to be there. Like it was. I mean, there's some unbelievable stats being racked up now for Smith's like last 10 innings in England or something, or even more. I mean, I think he's missed out once. I think people in England regard him now as like his runs as an inevitability.
Right.
It's funny, which isn't quite right, because in between 2019 and 2023, it hasn't been that guaranteed for Steve Smith. He's been fucking around with his technique. Every summer he seems to say he's found his hands again, or he's doing something different, and this time he's backing across, this time he's not. But again, a testament to his greatness is that he's clearly found a purity of focus for playing in England. It's something that he obviously desperately wants, which is to win this series. And when he's coming out to bat, he's really embodying that idea that, you know, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. I mean, watching his knock at Lords, that it did feel inevitable. He was just like unbreakable. There was no answers. I thought they did bowl absolute pump to him at the start and just let him get to 20.
Yep.
But then it's just he just works them, and he's got that cover drive going now as well. Sometimes I feel like he loses his cover drive, Steve Smith, which basically once he's able to hit the ball through that area as a captain, it causes huge problems for where you set your field, because you know, normally like people like to bowl straight to him or short to him and just block him up there, knowing that the way his bat pathway and hands are set make it hard for him to cover drive. But once he's got the cover drive going, which he does, he scores so many runs through there now. So he's looking great, and it was a privilege to see, and he was absolutely fucking gutted when he got out in that first innings.
Well, I think that he should play for Headingley if he's fit.
Yeah, that's huge.
So to that end, England have already got their 11 going. So it's Crawley, Duckett, Brooke at 3, Joe Root, BAIRSTOW 5, Stokes, Moeen Ali. Back in the side, Chris Wokes in for the first time, Stuart Broad, Ollie Robinson, Mark Wood. Mark Wood, I suggest he's not 100% fully fit, because I mean he wasn't fit for the last game. 1 week later, he's now fit. Guess we'll see what kind of wicket it is. But Jimmy Anderson and Josh Tongue will be rested, and obviously Ollie Pope is out for the series with he needs surgery on his shoulder.
Do you like the side?
England side. Strengthens the batting with Wokes and Moeen. So you got so it was a BAIRSTOW 5, Stokes 6, Moeen 7, Wokes 8. Yeah, so it's a little.
Moeen 7. I mean, last time BAIRSTOW was 7.
Yeah,
Moeen was 8 at Edgbaston. He's moved to 7. Then Wokes is in.
Hey, Wokes plays well. Surprised Wokes didn't play at Lords because he's got such an amazing record there. But do I like their side? I think Wood will be a significant inclusion if he is fit. Because he is genuinely quick. He'll be the fastest bowler in the series. But do I like their side?
What do you think of Brooke at 3? I mean, he's been so skittish.
Yeah.
I sort of like that he doesn't give a fuck when he comes out to bat. Like he goes like a level above in terms of just trying to smash everything. He almost feels like he's got super adrenaline or something. Coming out at 3. I like England's bowlers. I like their bowling. I think with Wokes, Broad, Robinson, Wood, it's a pretty good attack.
It's pretty
Four
good
quicks in a spinner.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you like it?
It's funny. You look at the names and you think, I've seen those names do well, and I've seen those names look fucking shit.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes, like, Mo and Ellie, they got a spinner now. That's good. But Mo in at Edgbaston, great, like couple through the gate and a couple of good deliveries. Yeah. Maybe I'm sure he's better for the run. How could he not be? But at the same time, he got smashed.
Yeah.
And he whacked a couple of sixes, but that was it. I suppose Wokes hasn't played for a while. I feel like Wokes is always pretty reliable in England. But it surprises me that he's been so far down the pecking order.
Yeah.
And one thing I've thought about England, to be fair to them, is that, like, I think their side looks completely different if Leach and Archer had been available. They're big losses for those guys.
Of course.
They obviously back Ollie Robinson. He might be their number one. Their first picked as a quick. He just always seems to be in the side, even though he's bowled a lot of 122k powder puff shit. But
Well, from the Australian perspective, Murphy will come in for line. That's been confirmed. Cummins has suggested that Hazelwood will rest, probably for Scott Boland, the barrel. Now, Bharat Sundaresan has suggested that Mitch Marsh might play. So he did a tweet. Said maybe something, maybe nothing, but Cameron Green didn't train on the eve of the test, which is quite rare for him. And there was a lot of attention on Mitchell Marsh during training, handshakes and one-on-one session with Michael Divenuto and catches at gully/slip cordon, which suggests that Mitch Marsh in for Green, and you would suggest that Green has some sort of niggle.
I reckon that's pretty good mail from Bharat. All I could that's well explained. Yeah, I mean the only mitigating factor would be also at Edgbaston, Mitch Marsh started measuring out his run up just to wind journos up. Yeah, which I thought was pretty funny. It's a long game joke. I like it. If they're like getting guys to deliberately shake his hand and do gully catches just to fucking throw England off the scent.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. I mean, Greeny was bowling a lot of bounces, and you're worried about the Jimmy Jack there.
Yeah. So about his loads.
They might feel at 2-0 up. It's a good time to give him a rest ahead of the final two games.
Yeah, because after this test, there's a week in between as well. Yeah, there's a bigger gap, I think.
Yeah. So anyway, I like if we're talking vibes, I do like Mitch Marsh in the side. Obviously, a great mate of Pat Cummins as well. And if Australia can get a win in this game, massive if, I think. I'll be enjoying Mitch Marsh being part of that.
Big time.
Just as he was at. Was he there in Old Trafford? He came in for the Oval, didn't he? And then just took 5.
Yeah.
Lost. Yeah. So that looks like 3 changes for Australia. I don't feel like Green is too big a loss. I'd like him to keep going. But Marsh is experienced. He'll be able to bowl those overs. I don't know. I've got no idea actually. Fuck, I don't have a Scooby Doo.
I think I like Marsh. I mean, I'd pick Green if fit.
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't even enter my mind that he'd been dropped. I presume it's workloads.
Steve Smith will play his 100th test. I saw last night that he has the highest batting average for anyone to have played 99 tests. The next highest, Rahul Dravid. So average is 59. I think Dravid averaged 58 at the time.
Right.
So that's pretty good, I suppose. So you've got here blindfold test.
You haven't seen this?
I've not seen it.
Oh, mate. You got a lot of people know what I mean when I say this. So CA released some Smith content, some pre-recorded Smith content.
Okay.
Steve Smith's in an indoor cricket centre. There's a table in front of him, and there's 6 or 7 New Balance cricket bats, each with a different number on them. Like it's like numbering up to like 30. So they're different numbers of the 7 bats, like 24, 22. 18, 2, 6, something like that.
Okay.
These are on post-it notes on the bat, and he's doing what is called the blindfold test. So he basically intros to the camera and essentially says, I know my bats pretty well. I know the feel of them. And they put a blindfold on him and randomly give him bats. You can see that, he's reaching out, doesn't know where the bat is. Right. Picks up the bat, taps it as though he's, taking his stance, and correctly identifies each bat by number. over the course of the video.
Gets all of them right?
Gets all of them right, which is and then tells a story about each bat when he uses it, like why, the different repairs that are on it. He then like uses his middle finger like pursed with his thumb to like click his nail onto the middle of the bat, saying, "Oh, I see, you can hear that one's more of a training bat." So, not for me, mate.
I've had sex with a woman before.
And I thought that was a very appropriate piece of content ahead of his 100th test. Like, it was more than a lick of the tism, and we love him for it.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? Like we've on several occasions remarked upon, his particular like disposition with this kind of stuff.
Right.
I haven't really thought this story through. I was lucky enough to spend some time with my dad over in the UK, and he was talking about cross-examining a psychologist once over some criminal matter. And the psychologist was talking about how there are some jobs in the world where, what it was about was some regional copper who had gone out, who had been placed as the sole copper in this remote town and was pulling over people for very minor indiscretions in like remote contexts, like being 2Ks over the limit, 3Ks, you know what I mean? Right. And the small town was getting restless and starting to bully him and stuff. And can I talk about this? Yeah. We're talking. And his superiors had suggested to him that like you use a little bit of discretion with some of these things, like because the person you pulled over who was 5Ks over the limit is the son of the mayor, and the mayor's got power. You're actually going to diminish your own power in this town.
Got it.
If so the lesson for this copper was, please, like be judicious about these things. And the copper couldn't do it. The copper was like a black and white thinker. So my dad is cross-examining the psychologist about it, and the psychologist is saying like some people are prone to black and white thinking, some are more grey. Right. And the psychologist was making the point that in some jobs you actually want a certain amount of like compulsive personality. People who have got perhaps maybe not unhealthy, but like an overwrought attention to detail on things. And he was saying, like a legal practitioner or like a surgeon. You want your surgeon to be pretty switched on, wouldn't you say? And maybe
yes.
Huge attention to detail, not sort of like vibey.
Yeah.
Vibey on your arteries, like
my surgeon's Bazball.
Yeah, that's right. It's not a sort of poetic approach to it.
So like whips the crowd up.
Whips up the nurse. And obviously I can only think about things in cricket terms. I said, kind of like your number 3 and 4 bat for Australia. Yeah. Okay, and so that's my tribute to Steve Smith.
I see,
on his 100th test.
Right,
it's like I nothing makes me feel safer
100%.
Than looking at that. I think it was a genius piece of content from Cricket Australia. Yep. He picks up a bat. He knows exactly what it is. I want that from my number 4 bat. Yep. I don't know what it means for the rest of his life. I know he struggles to sleep, and I know that he gets in his whites and plays in front of the mirror with his bats, cricket bat.
Right.
What happens away from the ground is, immaterial to me.
Sure.
When the guy walks out into the middle,
because that's his job, and that's what he is to you as well.
He brings every iota of desire and preparation available to him as a human. Yep. And I think Australia should be, especially on his 100th test, deeply grateful. And did you know he started as a leggy?
He debuted with Tim Payne. Pez, bad news, the Women's Ashes.
Yeah, saw this.
Australia lost the game.
Fuck!
That for me is against the spirit of cricket. So England made 186 for 9. Danny White hit 76. Annabelle Sutherland took 3 for 28. And Australia fell 3 runs short. Elise Perry came in late, 51 off. I think it was like 27 or something like that.
Yeah.
Red.
Oh, good.
And they won by 3 runs there at the end. So England have kept the Women's Ashes alive with that win. So Australia just needs to win one more game, and then that'll be that forever.
Yeah. Well done, England. Obviously, Danny White, 76, tight death bowling. They won at the Oval there. 20,000 people. That's pretty hot.
Yep.
Okay, so that's all good. Australia won the last T20, so yeah, Australia's got the Test win and then a T20 win, so that they've got 6 points. England now on 2, 6-2 is
Speaking
the score.
of cops, Beth Mooney hit 61 red in the first T20.
Yeah.
Sort of anchored Australia to a win. Yeah, she's a cop.
Alyssa Healy said after this game at the Oval, which Australia went down. And by the way, that's Australia's first loss to England in 3.5 years.
I'm fucking sick, mate. I'm sick.
Well, you know what Alyssa Healy said, and I think this is the most controversial thing said in cricket across the world in the last 10 years minimum. She said, we're allowed to lose games of cricket. And I'm like, excuse me?
Okay. Enjoy your last game captaining.
Yeah, that's right.
Because that kind of chat just ain't going to fly here.
Yeah. How do I get a cardboard cutout and a fucking lighter? I think that's too far, that image. So I withdraw it.
Absolute murder of crows.
Yeah.
Absolute crow's feet.
But Australia's allowed to lose games of cricket. Says we're allowed to lose games of cricket. I mean,
fuck off.
I mean, talk about entitlement.
How fucking dare you?
We got no problems in this country.
No issues.
No, we're fine socially.
No issues.
We're fine. I mean, I suppose she's right. Lisa also said England did say ahead of the series, this is their strongest format. So, we expected this to be a strong challenge. So I suppose a crumb for England. I mean, we have had it our own way. We've won 2 tests in the men's. Yeah. We won a test in the women's, a T20 in the women's. Right. It's been pretty good. So
pretty good going.
And, a crumb for England, and also fear that the crumb will become a whole biscuit.
Yeah, because with the men's, it's like if they win this one, then it's like then Old Trafford is going to be a thing, and then it's going to go 2-2, or it'll just be 3-0.
Yeah. It's funny, like the Headingley game could go a couple of ways. England could storm home, in a fury of emotion, or they could be a castle built on sand and lose by an innings and 350, or it could be close, or it could rain out. It's just amazing how there are all these options at our disposal. It's just sort of an analysis thing. It's a crick viz thing.
Do you know what's not acceptable though? The Australian women's team losing games of cricket.
Yeah, I know. I mean, but people say the man cad, I'm just using the colloquialism, is a great debate. I mean, this would be the great debate.
Yes.
Are the Australian women's team allowed to lose games of cricket? I mean, this is fucking news to me. Smash her in the next one, I reckon.
Okay, so let's talk about the World Cup qualifiers going on now. I was going to say we talked about it, but we didn't because it was lost audio.
We've definitely talked about it.
We did talk about it.
Publish it.
Yeah, that's right. So the West Indies are gone. The West Indies are out of the World Cup, which is a travesty, really. They lost games to Zimbabwe. No shame in that. Zimbabwe's been fantastic in ODI cricket for a couple of years now. And also they're hosting the tournament. They lost to them. Then they lost to the Netherlands in a super over where they couldn't defend 373, I think it was. And then they lost to Scotland in the first game of the Super Sixes. Now, Scotland are now in pole position to qualify for the Men's World Cup. Sri Lanka are the only team, this is per Wisden, Sri Lanka are the only team to book their place in India so far, while several full members have failed to make it. Ireland were the first big team to be knocked out, with the West Indies following not long after. What am I reading here? Sorry. Zimbabwe rode the Sean Williams wave to 5 wins from the first 5, but 2 defeats at the wrong time have seen them crash out.
Zimbabwe's gone.
So Zimbabwe's
early
gone.
In the boys.
That's a shame.
This is reported by Ben Gardner, by the way, at Wisden, which we're grateful for here. Right. It's been being so immersed in the men's Ashes and generally Big 3 cricket, which is all that matters.
Of course.
I have found it difficult to get across the crossing the T's and dotting the lowercase J's of this, the X's and O's, if you will, and only will. So appreciating this, but to draw it out, it looks like Scotland's looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very sad story about the West Indies, and this World Cup coming up, the ODI World Cup in India, given it's only a 10-team tournament, was quite clearly designed to include full member nations only and no associate nations. So for Scotland to usurp a number of full member nations to make this, to basically, sort of what's the word? Like, reverse the desires of the administration.
Yeah.
Is a pretty cool story.
It's like in the Football World Cup where America just have to make it. They have the easiest qualification route. They get several chances, and like when they didn't make it for the last one or the one before that, it was like that's just catastrophe for FIFA because they need American money.
Yes, like with Scotland making it.
That's exactly the same thing.
Yeah. I see. It's like we got to get Scotland.
Got to get Scotland involved.
It is. Yeah.
Name one Scotland player.
I played with one in 2003 called John Bosworth.
I played with a guy called Scott once. So disrespectful.
Isn't it?
Shocking. Sorry, Scotland. Sorry.
I would love to have done a season there. It'd be sick.
All right, before we do hashtag AskTGC, Pezza, should we thank our dear friends at Budgy Smuggler?
Yeah.
BudgySmuggler.com, buddysmuggler.com.au. Use the code goodareas at checkout for free shipping. We have just had the great pleasure of spending some time in the UK, where it was warm enough, but apparently it was really warm before we got there. And I know a
couple of good days when we got there.
Stacks of people have been heading over to Europe from Australia,
yep.
And it's Budgy Smuggler season. We were obviously we were fortunate enough to receive some kit from Budgy Smuggler,
yep.
and we gave those goodies to our live show guests. Then we saw Ryan Sidebottom actually in the kitchen the next day.
Yep. Doing some ironing in his budgies.
Yeah, that's right. He looked fantastic.
He looked good. Big man looked good.
Did you see him at Lord's?
I didn't see him. Did you see him?
I see he walked past, but I
didn't say that.
No.
It was that's just a professional relationship.
No, he was like across the way.
Oh, okay, right.
And I was thinking about it this morning. I was like,
Sidsy.
Yeah. What would I call him?
They call him Sids.
Sids.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's I've never been that comfortable with that. Same with Peter Siddle.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's just the acronym is
no good.
Sick.
No good.
Well, not sick. It's just.
Yeah. So then I was like, I'm not going to call out Ryan. Ryan.
Hey, Rye. Yeah. He's just like I don't know.
We've never met before.
I saw Ian Bell.
Yeah,
that was nice.
He was sick for a beer, wasn't he?
He was really like it was. It felt nice.
Yeah.
Oh, he looks good, Ian Bell. He really does. He really does scrub up nicely, Belly. He's got good kit.
Yes, yeah. I agree with that. So just talking about Budgy Smuggler some more. I after the barbecue on Sunday after Australia won.
That's real. As soon as you said that, I'm like, what run out are you referring to?
I sent a couple of DMs to a couple of current Australian players.
Yeah,
and they said they weren't having beers tonight. Now that's upsetting because they obviously were, but they just didn't want me to be involved. We're
not having beers with you.
No, they said both to a man. They said short turnaround for Leeds, so no beers.
Fuck, the boys are on.
The boys are focused. Yeah.
Does it concern you?
A little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit.
You got to celebrate the wins.
Oh yeah. Also, I reckon that was a famous Australian win, but it wasn't because I reckon it was, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
That was a great win for Australia, being sent in like that. Stokes does his thing. They lose a bowler.
It was a famous Australian win.
Yeah, it's impressive.
This team is winning games that Australian teams don't win.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, as we keep hearing from the English, that won't be remembered anymore. I mean, even Belly said that. Belly's been great with us, but he said something like, I'd say this to his face or on WhatsApp or whatever. But he said, it's obviously out, but if Cummins had his time again, he might do it differently. And unfortunately, the game's going to be remembered for this. And it's like, well, you're doing your fucking best to make sure it's remembered for that, all of you guys. I mean, I just don't think that's the case. I like the... this is like some touch wood shit and some cursing stuff, but like it's occurred, I'm just being honest, it's occurred to me 2 or 3 times. People know that I'm sick for this. If Australia wins this series... could there be a reprisal? Because this hasn't been the case for 20 years or so. Could we be looking at a ticker tape parade?
Fuck.
Yeah. Because ticker tape parades have...
Yeah, ticker tape.
Ticker tape parades.
Ticker tape parade.
It's almost like it went... it kind of died with the onset of the iPhone or something. You know, like it feels very old timey. But like if like open top bus is England. Ticker tape is more like guys, you know, kitting around more in a sedan that you're standing out of, you know, like I'll push.
I tell you what,
let's talk to Cricket Australia. Like, it's too soon to say.
If the boys are riding around in a Nissan Pulsar,
that's what I'm saying.
1997,
it's got to be a grade cricket car.
Yeah,
And if Cricket Australia won't officially sanction, let's see if we can get some of the boys in non-Cricket Australia gear, like Travis Head in a you know Metallica shirt or something.
Yeah, Mitch Marsh.
Pass.
Yeah.
And we can just do it up Clarendon Street or something, you know. Like
that's fucking good.
But I'm so, like, it's too soon. It's too soon. It's inviting problems. I think England's cricket is good, and I think they're going to come hard. Sure. But at their own moralising. But yeah, I'm just wondering if like, and maybe that could be a Budgy Smuggler sponsored thing as well.
Sure,
imagine that. Cold. Over here, you'd have to sort of do it up north, or maybe dry season, sort of NT and that. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think, like, I'm thinking ticker tape parade, which includes the confetti and the streamers.
I think there's a chance. If
Do you think Australia is like the Australian polis is like invested enough?
I think what England have done, they've actually unified the country to
both sides of the aisle politically.
Yep, to be very invested in this in the first couple of days of this Test match, mate. If Australia go 3-0 up.
So I'm
sucking
sucking
dicks and taking names. It's a funny noise.
I mean, we've all had thoughts about what we do if Australia won. What do you mean take? You said 2B before you with a 2B pencil, but like, what's when you say sucking dick and taking names, like what dicks is sucking, and then why are you taking a name after that? I'm sorry to be Steve Smith about it, but
what's this? 2.9? No, it's 2.10 inches. I don't really know what that means, but
but you're sucking dick and it's provocative.
It is provocative. Yeah. No one knows what it means.
No one knows what it means. Yeah, I'm just wondering if the ticker tape parade, like, you're going to have advanced organisation of these things. It's just inviting trouble mentioning it. I appreciate that, you know, but it could, like, if ever there's been a time.
22 years.
Yeah, ticker tape. A ticker tape parade.
What is ticker tape?
I don't know. It sounds like it just sounds so old timey.
Yeah.
Ticker tape.
Ticker tape parade.
Yeah.
Daphne. Anyway, that's budgysmuggler.com. And
Shane Watson winning the inner battle. Unfortunately, Watto was a chance of joining the show today. I wanted him to join, not just to sort of join the pylon. I don't know what he actually thinks, but
the Nathan pylon.
The Nathan Pillin. But that'll work for a few people. But his book, Winning the Inner Battle, is all about how to get the best out of yourself mentally and like let yourself go, so to play with freedom. And I was curious to talk to him about that, I guess that element of cricket in terms of baseball, which I think also is in that same vein, but similarly, which Watto questioned before the series started on our show. But also, secondly, how the Australians might deal mentally with what's ahead of them, given the, you know, Galatasaray away hostile crowd that they'll be faced with, where they're going to be called convicts. And
the ticker tape parade.
They're going to free themselves up to enjoy the ticker tape parade with their budgies on, standing out of a Nissan Pulsar that's got Gatorade bottles with orange syrup still in it from 3 weeks ago, and a discarded McDonald's
bags,
paper bag.
Yeah.
With the burger ring there that's got a little bit of lettuce still on it, and some beetroot juice. You can see it, can't you? You can see it.
I can taste it.
Not to be confused with Beetlejuice. Now
that's ShaneWatson.au.
In a battle, he couldn't join. He's with the San Francisco Unicorns. Am I allowed to announce that? Oh well, done. Hashtag AskTGC. If you don't mind me rolling on, here goes. This is from Matt Drake. He writes, "To your honourable spirits of the game, semicolon." Oh, okay. To your honourable spirits of the game, Sir Sam Perry and Lord Ian Higgins. Massive fan of the podcast for far too long now, and I'd like to thank you in advance for taking on the burden of my thoughts in place of family and friends who are normally adjusted human beings that don't work themselves into a state of extreme anxiety over 22 blokes dressed in white moving a ball around a patch of grass somewhere in London or some shit. Bypassing the discussion on the laws, inverted commas, versus, inverted commas, the spirit of the game, which have doubtlessly been discussed at length by the time you receive this, I'd rather focus on the existential crisis of international test cricket that appear to me to have been heightened by the response to the BAIRSTOW stumping rather than the event itself. Being a child of the 90s and existing in the Australian machismo cricket bubble during my emotionally developmental years, I have made a concerted effort for this Ashes series to take a non-partisan view of the game and appreciate good cricket for good cricket no matter which nation is playing it. This has been easy to do watching some chanceless batting from Joe Rood in the first test, watching Harry Brooks at times sumptuous attacking and defensive play, and watching Stuart Broad produce unplayable balls seemingly from nowhere, sans the theatrics. And of course, Ben Stokes once again flicking the switch and taking complete control of the game in the space of an over, albeit whilst wrestling with my own Headingley demons and just accepting the fact that he'll probably do this to me again and I just have to learn to enjoy it. I believe this is called Stockholm Syndrome. Extending beyond the play, I've also listened to the post-match press conferences of both captains and been surprised to catch myself agreeing with the sentiments of Ben Stokes, who talks in rational terms like a well-adjusted human being. Granted, there has been some questionable statements regarding perceived victories, but all in all, statements have been good-natured and respectful while still maintaining enough of the confidence that has been developed in English cricket over the last 12 to 18 months. Until Lords. Up until the statements made at the end of the Lord's Test, I feel that both Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum's comments have been mostly insular and have not been designed to inflame those pundits that exist on the extremities, even if they have done so inadvertently, but rather have had an air of, this is what we've been doing, this is what we told you we'd be doing, don't be shocked that when that's what we keep doing. I was disappointed at the end of another engrossing test match between our two nations when the England rhetoric was seemingly flipped on its head, and rather than continue their rightful approach of ignoring outside distractions, they have seemed to embrace them, seizing on an opportunity to avert the attention of their media away from their own tactical issues and throw their opposition to the long room terriers. I don't need to refer to past indiscretions for what may be considered as operating against the spirit of the game for either nation. There are various other observers who have done that this week, however fairly or unfairly, nor do I need to belabor the point that Stokes and Baz have seized on an opportunity to relabel this extremely professional and accomplished Australian team as a pack of cheats. I think the strategy is obvious enough, and I have no doubt that Cummins and his men expected this at some point in this series. What worries me more is the carefully curated response, the further self-aggrandizement of this English team as the saviours of the game, which is now extended beyond the style in which you must play to keep the crowds entertained, to now encapsulate the manner in which you must play to be considered a decent human being. A set of rules that only the English seem to understand and have not been shared with its colonised underlings, yet they must still be completely aware of in order to play in a manner which is agreeable to, inverted commas, the English way. In a sporting system that has recently been publicly set alight by formalised realisations of inequality, I would have assumed that an approach that appears to make all facets of the game understandable to only a chosen few would be viewed as the antithesis to what this English team have been trying to achieve under its new dictum. What further impact does this have on those nations outside the big three? Are Stokes and Co.'s claims of saving Test cricket only applicable if you play your cricket under the Union Jack? What message does this send to the English public school boys and girls who have felt that cricket was becoming more relevant and accessible? And lastly, and somewhat selfishly, does this say to an Australian cricket lover, that no matter how we play the game or how we try to account for our past indiscretions, we will never be forgiven and never be forgotten? What does this do to discourage our historically aggressive and combative style of cricket in place of a commendable yet competitive one that advertises great sportsmanship to all observers? I only hope that this spirit of the game dross gets forgotten in the wake of some truly excellent cricket, but it probably won't. God save our gracious Carey. Cheers, Matt Drake. P.S. I'm aware there's probably not enough cock stuff in this email for it to get read out on the pod, but I thank you for the therapeutic benefit I've gotten from getting this out of my head and into a medium that allows for more than 144 characters or whatever the fuck. With all sincerity, yuck, thanks for the content you guys put out. It has reignited my love of cricket over the last 3 to 4 years and extended it beyond the realm of the golden era.
Who do you reckon's got the biggest cock in the Australian team?
You know, it's a broad church. This podcast, I think Matt very subtly but vividly and pointedly, calls out some of the double standards we've been talking about and draws it nicely into the only kind of alluded to ICEC report into elitism and racism. It seems that the spirit of the game is only able to be adjudged by the English when it suits them, and it's really nice that the rest of the world is looking at it and laughing.
Yeah. You know when Usman, like, he didn't square up, but, you know, like when he stopped to that guy, Bartholomew Truffington III, or whatever, were you like, fuck yeah, Rosie? Or were you like, what the fuck is going on?
Gotta say, man, like at that time, it was we're looking at maybe a 10:30 p.m. in Australia. It was a late start and the longest session.
That's right. Yeah.
Whole house is asleep. Yep. You know, and
chairs through windows.
Well, I'm lying on that. Like I'm jet lagged to the nines. I'm fucked. Yeah. I know that we're recording later. I'm also like I've just got. I actually was thinking. Just prior to that, I was thinking of having a sleep during lunch because I was so fucked.
Right.
And then the BAIRSTOW thing happened and I wouldn't be sleeping for days.
Yeah.
Sort of started to rail up and that.
Yeah, that's right.
And my point is like, then like I have to commend whoever, whether it was Sky or Channel 9 or whatever it was, because that shot of the long room as the boys walked in was live. And the actual angle of it was very colorized CCTV. And I'm like, this is fucking gold.
Yeah.
They obviously, roared their delight for the England batters.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I thought to myself, like, they're surely, like, I genuinely was like, I thought there would be like grace and decorum for the Aussies, but it was fucking febrile. Yeah. Like it was a frenzy.
Yeah. I'd never seen anything even remotely like that before, including the time when Pakistan literally match fixed at Lords during that game. It wasn't like that.
They the empire has no clothes. They revealed themselves. But like, yeah, they're walking through and then you see like, and the Aussies are smiling. I mean, it's funny you say the thing about Renshaw. I thought there was a kind of a nervousness to his smile, doing whatever he was doing. But like, then you can see Cummins has got like a wry smile as he's walking through because we actually couldn't hear the booing.
Yeah.
And then so you're watching the CCTV footage, it's fucking hottest shit of all time, and then Khawaja stops and you're like, what the fuck's going on here?
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. Like, yeah, I had the privilege of speaking to Alan Brazil and Gabby Agbonlahor yesterday, and that was the one bit they were really friendly. I was kind of ready to fight,
Yeah, right.
But they were really friendly, but that was the only sort of point of contention. I said something about the spirit of cricket is sherry, or crimson gin-soaked faces of the MCC, and they sort of pulled me up. And Alan was like, "Don't you think it's good? Don't you think all this stuff is good?" I'm like, all the barracking and the cheats, like it's like people are interested now. And I was like, well, it's like, yeah, like sort of Happy Gilmoring of cricket. I like that, but it's just the long. I'm like, I'm not probably. I see what you're saying. I think Aussies are all for that, but like, sort of. Like tripping blokes over as they walk past and like having a go at like 11-year-old kids and having a go at the Muslim guy, in the context of what's going on with the report. It's like that's a bit grim. I'm not calling that like ultimate entertainment, like really.
That's what the game needs.
Yeah. But I suppose like, I mean, again, I think it's important to bookend the show by just noting that like there's more that brings us together than keeps us apart, and that we've got lots of mates, and there are a lot of sensible people, and I think Australians have probably relished some rare, unexpected reverse high ground out of all of this.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I'm still in shock.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what to do with it.
Nah.
Because it's just never us.
Yeah.
And maybe also a good time, he goes, because we said this on the last show that got lost, maybe legally for the best at the time. But this podcast I think is the end of everything that we did in the UK, even though we've had to record it from Melbourne. Yeah. And so huge thanks to everybody who supported us while we're in the UK. I mean, it was a trip of a lifetime for us, don't you think? I mean, I think that was our best run of live shows ever. Sure. It was the hottest thing we've done, the most tickets we've sold. We've been supported just incredibly by our fans in England, our audience in England. Customers in England. It was. I'm glad to have done a business transaction with several customers.
Thank you so much for all the people that come up to us at Lords or Edgbaston with their customer reference numbers.
Of course, CRN. What's your CRN?
You get your CRN. Yeah, identify themselves with receipts.
Yeah,
that was a joy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thanks to the guy who instead of coming up at Lords decided to tweet publicly that he wanted to say hi, but I looked shorter than Ben Duckett. Or something, to which I said, why don't you just say hi in person? He said, oh, your dad was with you. So I thought that was really
normal stuff.
Normal, and also very thoughtful and considerate that he was taking my father into consideration against that sort of slam dunk sledge, and instead decided to just put it out on the internet. That was thoughtful. But yeah, seriously, all of to play at Ali Pally and Union Chapel was like memories of a lifetime stuff. And gear, sort of sick. Gear. Yeah.
That sort of gear. It was good gear.
To have guests of the caliber of Glenn Maxwell, Ian Bell, Phil Salt, Ryan Sidebottom, who stepped in last minute and drove an hour and a half to be there, followed up with Ricky Ponting, Graham Swan, Michael Vaughan. Huge thanks to all of those guys. And we should also say to the ECB who had us in the press box as well and welcomed us, and all the press who welcomed us and were really friendly as well. It was a huge success for us to be in the UK. It would be cool to still be there covering it, to be in the belly of the beast, but family is more important than talking dumb shit about nationhood.
Also, the series is over. So. We will still be doing pieces for how's the piece on it for the BBC for the next 3 test matches for the first couple of days.
Yeah, we're up at 4 a.m. You'll be feeling good about that, I would imagine.
feeling good. Thanks always to everyone that's made it this far to the end of the show, and to all of our patrons. All of our patrons at patreon.com/greatcricketer, where we're about to record #AskTGC Fridays. So thanks for sticking with us here. Sorry about the delay. Sorry about the fuck up with the original recording. And see you guys on the internet real soon. Cheers.